In this video, I'll show you how to build the perfect fragrance collection using only 5 fragrances. This video is for the beginner who's looking to have 5 fragrances that'll pretty much cover all the bases as far as occasions and situations in which you wear them. And before we start, if you want to support the channel, you could buy a sample at my store, scentpilot.com, and here's a code to save you money on your first order. Let's get into this video. The first fragrance I would add to my collection is the Fresh and Clean fragrance. And the reason I would add a Fresh and Clean fragrance is because it's the most versatile. It's going to be the one and done fragrance. Meaning, if you had a solid Fresh and Clean fragrance in your collection, you don't need any other fragrance because it pretty much works in every situation, any occasion, any season, any reason. Some great Fresh and Clean options are going to be the blue fragrance genre, which is that fresh out the shower, masculine smell. Some great options in this category are Bleu de Chanel Eau de Parfum, Dior Sauvage Eau de Toilette, YSL Eau de Parfum, Versace Dylan Blue, Bad Boy Cobalt Eau de Parfum, and the list goes on. If you smelled those fragrances before, you are going to notice some similarities, which is pretty much that blue fragrance style. You could try something similar like an aquatic, which are fragrances that pretty much smell like the ocean. Some great options in this genre are Acqua di Gio Parfum 2024, Acqua di Gio Profondo Eau de Parfum, and Dolce & Gabbana Light Blue Eau Intense. And another option you could try are these citrus woody fragrances like Dior Homme 2020 and Terre de Hermes Eau de Toilette. The core principle here is this: get a fresh and clean fragrance that offers good performance because they tend to be the most versatile. And if you're somebody who doesn't want to have more than one fragrance, they tend to be one and dones where you don't need any other fragrance in your collection. Now, let's say you want to add a second fragrance to your collection. You have one of 2 ways you could approach this. You could be like my best friend. He loves Fresh and Clean fragrances, so he owns YSL Eau de Parfum and Bleu de Chanel Eau de Parfum. You're pretty much adding another Fresh and Clean fragrance because you simply enjoy that style, and again, they tend to be extremely versatile where you're pretty much able to rotate between the 2 fragrances. But let's say you want to add something completely different from a Fresh and Clean fragrance. In that situation, I would go for a warmer fragrance. Something sweet, warm, maybe a bit spicy, or even a bit boozy. Some great options in this category are Replica's Jazz Club, Versace Eros Flame, Jean Paul Gaultier Le Mal Elixir, Spice Bomb Extreme by Viktor and Rolf, and Stronger With You Intensely by Emporio Armani. And the warmer fragrances tend to be more suitable for the fall and winter because they tend to cut through the cold. And you want to avoid the warmer fragrance in high heat summers because the wearing experience may come off cloying. For example, you could wear your Fresh and Clean fragrance during the daytime and you could wear your warmer fragrance in the evening, or you could wear your Fresh and Clean fragrance as your signature during the spring and summer and your warmer fragrance during the fall and winter. The core principle here is this: for your second fragrance, you could add another great Fresh and Clean option, or you could go for something completely different that leans a little bit warmer. Now, let's say you want to add a third fragrance to your collection. From here, I would recommend you buy an affordable fresh fragrance. Now, the affordable fresh fragrance will be used in certain situations that don't require that much time, or certain situations where you know later on you're going to switch up your entire presentation and put on a completely different fragrance, like going to the gym, going to the barber, or even doing some groceries. The reason you want it to be a Fresh and Clean fragrance is because, like I said earlier, they tend to be the most versatile. And the reason you want it to be affordable, believe it or not, this is my most worn category of fragrance. I go to the gym 5 days a week. I do errands like everybody else. I go to the barbershop every 2 to 3 weeks. Versace Per Homme, Mont Blanc Legend Spirit are my most worn fragrances of 2024, which are going to fall within that category as well. And if you want some additional options, check out Polo Red Eau de Toilette, Coach for Men, or Burberry Touch. And performance is not a key deciding factor in this category. Remember, the gym is only gonna take an hour or two, going to the barbershop might take an hour, so performance is not a key deciding factor here because afterwards, you're probably going to apply a different fragrance and you're only using it for a short period of time. The key principle here is this: get a fresh and clean fragrance because they tend to be extremely versatile, and you want it to be affordable because this might be your most worn fragrance in your collection. And if you want to add a fourth fragrance to your collection, I would recommend the date night fragrance. In the community, there's this idea that date night fragrances have to be spicy, warm, and sweet. I like to approach it from a different perspective. I look at it from the perspective of business, supply, and demand. If I constantly get compliments with this fragrance from women, then to me, it's a great date night fragrance. So I try to go for the fragrances that give me the most compliments from women in that situation, regardless of scent profile style. For example, Bleu de Chanel Eau de Parfum, Versace Eros Eau de Toilette, Armani Code Eau de Parfum, Acqua di Gio Parfum 2024, Tom Ford Noir Extreme Eau de Parfum. These are some of my most complimented fragrances in my collection, so when it comes to date night or romantic situations, those are the fragrances that I'm reaching for. Since you're really diving into fragrances, I would say take some time to explore this segment. Maybe buy a couple of samples and see which one gets you the most positive attention, and whichever fragrance gets you the most positive attention from women, that should be your date night fragrance. That's how I approach it, and that's honest to God my principle here when it comes to category 4. At this point, I've interviewed thousands of women when it comes to men's fragrances. I can't really tell you a specific style of fragrance that they enjoy, so I would say wear the one that gets you the most positive attention from them, and that should be your signature date night fragrance. Now, let's say you want to add a fifth fragrance to your collection. In my opinion, this should be your status fragrance. A fragrance that gives you the placebo effect of confidence. It makes you feel like the most important man in a room. And this is the fragrance you wear in special occasions, like a wedding, a birthday, or maybe you have an annual company meeting and you want to make the best presentation possible. That's when you would wear this style of fragrance. And in this category, I would experiment with more expensive fragrances, even niche fragrances, because remember, you're not going to be wearing them that often. So even if you buy something that's a little bit more expensive, it is going to last you a long time. Some fragrances in this category that I recommend: Creed Aventus Cologne, Tom Ford Oud Wood, Tom Ford Tobacco Vanille, and Parfums de Marly Sedley. Even designer fragrances like Chanel and Dior still have that status reputation amongst the public. So even if you get one of those fragrances for this category, you absolutely can. And you also don't have to buy the biggest bottle in this segment because remember, you're not going to be wearing it that often. It's only going to be reserved for those special occasions. For example, you could buy a 10 ml Tom Ford Tobacco Vanille for $70. Yes, it is expensive, but remember, you're not going to be wearing it that often, so it is going to last you a while. Again, guys, the core principle here is this: buy a fragrance that'll give you that status boost, a fragrance that'll make you feel confident, or maybe spend a little bit more money on an aspirational fragrance that you always wanted to have in your collection. The key point here is this: you're not going to be wearing it that often, and it's only reserved for special occasions. If you have these 5 fragrances in your collection, you pretty much cover all the bases, from dress down all the way to the most special occasions in your life. Now, if you want to push past the 5 fragrance mark, you absolutely can. At this stage, you're pretty much a fragrance collector, a fragrance enthusiast, somebody who really enjoys the art of perfumery. You're pretty much able to experiment, try a bunch of different fragrances, and see which ones you want to add to your collection. As long as you have these 5 fragrances, you pretty much have all the bases covered. So hope you guys enjoyed the video on how to make the perfect fragrance collection using only 5 fragrances. If you did, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment below what video you want to see next. Make sure to subscribe. And if you want to support the channel, you can buy a sample at my store, scentpilot.com. And here's a code to save you money on your first order. Thank you so much for watching and have a wonderful day.